Welcome to today's H1 2021 release update for SAP SuccessFactors. This is part of AKT's Insight series, where AKT has been an SAP Gold Partner for a lucky 13 years. So hi everyone, I'm Michelle and the facilitator for today's webinar. All attendees are in listen-only mode. On your panel, you are able to ask questions through the text box, or alternatively, you can email info@aktglobal.com with your questions. So our panelists today are Danny, who is the head of EMEA delivery, Mihal, who's our compensation solution lead, Nilufar, who is our learning consultant, and Marion, who's our performance management consultant. Before I pass this webinar to them, let me first introduce AKT to those who are first-time participants. AKT is one of the largest SAP Cloud People Solutions consultancies in the EMEA region, with more than 250 consultants across several countries, including the UK, Czech Republic, France, Switzerland, and recently, South Africa. We offer strategy and advisory, complex systems implementation programs, and apropos to today's release management webinar, AKT has one of the broadest offerings of application management services and support to help you both sustain and optimize your SuccessFactors system. And our domain of expertise extends through the SAP ecosystem, including SuccessFactors, SAP Sales Cloud, Qualtrics, SAP CRM, and recently SAP WorkZone for HR. So on to today's webinar. The agenda today covers the highlights of this release for these presented modules. We will be covering learning, performance and goals management, compensation management, succession and career development, and Qualtrics integrations to SuccessFactors. What we're going to be doing as well in this webinar is to share with you what we call low-hanging fruit, as denoted by this cherry icon. Since last year, we have been seeing that organizations are still finding it really challenging to meet their daily operational requirements to ensure that their employees and businesses' well-being and productivity are maintained. So we understand that the additional effort to make sure that your organization adopts the latest system innovations and updates may be quite difficult. That's why in this webinar, we're highlighting these low-hanging fruits, as this icon shows, and these are things that you'll be able to implement with minimum effort and quickly. So be sure to take a look through the slides, and when you see this low-hanging fruit, that's this icon, that's what it means. Let me remind you that these new features are already available for you in your preview instance since April 16th. And will be in your production from the 21st of May. One last thing. Please note that since the last release, SAP has changed the documentation of the release management and made it more user-friendly. You can now use the What's New page to filter specific topics, view specific details, or even better, watch a short video. We encourage you to review this webpage as we're finding it very useful ourselves. So, on to the first module for today's webinar, and that's learning. Let me pass this presentation on to our first panelist, Nilufar. One moment, please.
Hello everyone, my name is Nilufar Mouini and I'm your learning presenter for learning management consultant for AKT Club, and we are going to review the main learning enhancements for this release. So the first enhancement we will review for this release is the very exciting and much anticipated support for SuccessFactors Learning data in people analytics stories. And this will allow the report designer to create and share learning stories to generate custom reports in people analytics. For now, it will be possible to present data from other modules side by side with learning data, as well as use common filters on them, but blending of data between other modules and learning will not be supported. Also, reporting on external users is not yet supported. Of course, you will first have to configure IIS and people analytics on your environment to use this new functionality. So the deployment of this feature will be done in waves to data centers, starting in June and hopefully by end of July, which means that it's not available in the current preview release. Please note that this functionality is introduced in addition and in parallel to the standard and customized SuccessFactors learning reports that currently exist in the module. And it is very likely that most customers will keep using also the old reports mechanism for a while when this provides any benefits, and also while the learning reports in people analytics mature to include also standard reports as well as schedule reports, which will not be supported at this point. Another nice enhancement is for Course Home. So Course Home for instructor-led with online content, also known as blended course, gets additional functionality. Some highlights are the request a class, withdraw from a class, take the online version of a course inline, recommend a course, print a certificate, apply e-signature, take a survey upon completion, review online content from history, and additional materials which are document links. Please note that reserved seats and external users are still not supported for blended courses. So if these are required in your implementation for blended courses, then keep the configuration enable course home blended as false in the properties to keep using the old course home. Let's move on to personalized recommendations, which now supports additional language. The newly supported languages are Hebrew, Arabic, Simplified Chinese, Hindi, Vietnamese, and Thai. This means that customers who use these languages can also start using personalized recommendations. This feature is still considered in early adoption, but holds a lot of promise. For those of you who are not familiar with personalized recommendations, these are learning recommendations powered by machine learning, artificial intelligence. So learners get individual recommendations based on their profile and learning history, popularity with peers, as well as topics of interest. Please note that you have to be registered with the Early Adopter Case program to implement personalized recommendations. The next enhancement consists of two small improvements to the learning administration menu navigation, namely the option to click anywhere on a tree expanding menu item instead of having to click the caret only in order to expand the tree. So this sounds like a very small improvement, but those of you who use the admin UI will appreciate it. And indeed, this is an enhancement which originated from an idea in the customer community. The second admin UI enhancement is the addition of a navigation element search bar at the top of the menu, which allows you to search for a menu item. In the example, here you can see that the search for the word history filters the menu to show only history-related items such as Edit Learning History or the Learning History connector. Now, this feature will be interesting for those of you who use assessments, whether they be exams or quizzes, and want to upload the items using an item connector. Previously, it was only possible to link content objects to items using the item connector, but linking an assessment via the item connector was not possible. You had to manually make the link from the item entity on the admin UI. Now, linking the assessment is also possible. The classic scenario for this is when you both import quizzes and create items using the item connector. Now you will be able to almost fully do it by file upload. The only manual action would be to make the quiz active, so it's available. Thank you for your attention. I'm now giving the place to Marion for the performance management presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Nino. Hello, everybody. This is Marion. I'm a performance management consultant for AKT Clap. And now I'm going to present you the main enhancements and the main releases for performance and goals, as well as calibration. So let's start with a quick summary of those main releases. So as you can see here on the screen, we mainly have new functionalities on the 360 reviews. The objective here is mainly to close the functional gaps between the previous version and the new 360 Fiori version. We also have quite a few enhancements on the form assessment, the continuous performance management, and the calibration session. So let's start with the first one on the form assessment, the deep links. I don't know if you have heard of it yet, but the objective for the performance management module is to have a deep link, which is an hyperlink that can guide you to a specific performance management form. So for those of you who are using third-party applications, and if you want your users to be guided to a specific form within SuccessFactors, you will be able to use this hyperlink. The other new functionality on the form assessment is related to the customized weight rating. So here I will do a quick reminder. So the customized weight rating that you can see on the screen with the screenshots is actually an enhancement from 2020, in which the objective was for to have a specific calculated rating based on the role of the employee. We were able to define a weight, and based on this weight and this role and the rating given, we were having a calculated rating. So this is an enhancement from 2020, but now we have two new functionalities with this release from 2021. The first one is the possibility to actually import those scores through the import overall scores options. And the second new functionality is to do this import simply by selecting the target population. So before, the import of all scores could be done only for the entire population. And now we have the possibility to target only the target population. New functionality now on the latest goal management. So we are moving to the goal module. And as you can see here, it's with the latest version in which we have a new design, which is much more intuitive. So when you are on your goal plan, you now have the possibility to cascade pull and to cascade push some of your goals. So here, for example, I will be able to click on cascade objective and select all of the objectives that I want in the first step. And once I have selected the different objective, I will be able to select the recipients by checking the box below and edit the objectives if I want to, before being able to cascade. So here we are in the case in which we are pushing objectives to our teams, for example. But if we have the permissions, we can also go to someone else's plan and take some objectives to cascade those objectives to our plan. Let's move now to continuous performance management. And I'm sure some of you will be really happy about this new functionality. We now have for administrators the capacity to delete feedback, which was not possible before. So to do so by looking for delete continuous feedback and of course providing the correct permissions before, we will be able, based on those specific filters, receiver name or giver name, or for example, in the screenshot case, given before adding the date, we will be able to look for the list of feedback, selecting those feedback, and clicking on delete to delete the selected feedback. So this will be very useful, of course, in case the feedback was sent to the wrong person or we had some mistakes in the feedback answers. And when doing so, the administrator will not be able to see the content of the feedback. Still in continuous performance management, we now have the possibility to attach attachments to our activities. Again, it depends on our permissions, but I will be able to add up to 5 attachments to my activities whenever I will be creating them or modifying those activities. And again, based on my permission, I will be able to read, view those attachments, and to delete them. Still on continuous performance management, again, with the story report, we can now view and track the channels meetings for multiple roles. So as a quick reminder on what multiple roles is, for all of you who already have continuous performance management enabled, the multiple role functionality allows you to add other users than your team members to create activities, track the realization, and start meeting. And now through the story report, we will be able to track more in details these channels meetings for the multiple role functionality. So now let's move to 360 reviews. And as I told you at the beginning, it's where we have the most enhancement. So most of them, again, the objective is to close the functional gaps with the previous version. So as you can see in the new version, SAP Fiori version, we can now also add approvers as long as the form is at the modification stage. We can also have development goal section. We can have the Easy Rater, which allows you again to see everything at a glance instead of having everything expanded every section. We can see the form history. We can also see the More Form Action button. We can have access to the print preview, the stack ranker to compare all of the rating in our team between our team members. We can also display a data table instead of a chart in the executive review view. We can display the external user in the search results when adding new participants, and we will have section description fully displayed by default. And finally, let's move to the enhancements in the calibration module. So the first one is the deep links. Again, same as for the performance management module, we can, from the calibration view, have deep links to have hyperlink to guide you to specific performance management form. And we also have a new distribution range and group of ratings. So as you can see in the first screenshot, this is the before picture in which we have an individual percentage for each rating. So the rating here is the performance rating. So when using performance as a data source. And now, as you can see on the right, we can create group of ratings instead of having individual ratings for guidelines. And we can also create range of percentages for guidelines, thanks to new operators. So this is one of the big change. Also, when moving to the bin view in your calibration session, For each of the bin, you will be able to see the number of users, the number of employees based on those guidelines. And if you have defined specific group of ratings, you can see a warning message at the top if you do not meet those guidelines. You also have an improved way of creating manager-initiated sessions. So the managers will actually be able, when creating sessions, to add participants through filters and a hierarchy checkbox. And you also have a new UI for the bar charts. So you will see in blue every bins, every sections, every rating that meets the guideline, and in orange, the ones that do not meet the guidelines. And finally, we have the possibility for the admins, when in the managing calibration settings, to go in the search and filter fields and to select directly from this screen the filter fields that will be visible in all of the calibration view, including the executive review view. So that's it. I will now let Michal speak a little bit more about compensation.
Thank you, Marian. Hello, everyone. My name is Michal Ben Israel, and I'm Compensation Solution Lead here at AKT. Today, I'll be covering compensation model release updates. With this release, user can view, save, and print certificate for reward and recognition award they've received. And managers can view, save, and print certificate for awards given to their team members. Customer requested the ability to produce certificate to celebrate awards. The system creates award certificate using document generation, a feature of Employee Central. Next is mapping. You can now map information from employee profile to Employee Central integrated compensation worksheet. When you change EC category to employee profile, the system displays employee profile fields in EC field drop-down menu. For example, first and last name, title, date of birth, risk of loss, talent pool, reason of leaving, and so on. Now, this is my favorite for this half year. This release introduced enhancements for filtering functionality and compensation executive review. To enable enhanced filter, you must select the Enable Advanced Executive Review filter option on the Action for All Plans company setting page. The expansion of executive review filtering include capabilities to filter based on standard or custom reportable columns, similar to Excel-based filter. Also, you can filter on basis of field type, for example, contain for string field, between for date field, greater than for number fields, and so on. Something many of our customers have been asking for is the ability to filter on common fields or compensation planners, compa ratio, or employees who have been promoted. Now, how many times have you wanted to run eligibility rules only on one specific worksheet? You can now replay eligibility rules to specific compensation worksheet that you have already launched. In previous releases, you could only replay eligibility rules to all worksheets. This enhancement is coming from customer community idea. Now, if you are using force comment functionality, this is for you. You can now configure force comment functionality from the compensation admin tool. A new page, Define Standard Validation Rule, has been added to the Design Worksheet tab to support this functionality. The force comment feature is optional. When configured, you control whether user must enter comments if they are exceeding the guidelines. In previous releases, you could only configure force comment by manually updating the appropriate XML files. Adding the functionality of Compensation Admin tool improves efficiency when configuring worksheets. As role-based permission prerequisite, you have the administrator manage compensation, manage standard validation rule permission. Last, you can now add custom views for stock and bonus tabs in compensation worksheet. Customer requested that stock and bonus tabs support custom views. Previously, custom views was supported only for salary and variable pay templates. So that gives you a good overview of compensation module update for this release. More detailed release notes and guide for compensation can be found on your SAP community. I'd like now to pass this presentation on to Danny.
Hello everyone. My name is Danny Cohen and I'm the head of EMEA Delivery. Today we'll be reviewing the enhancements of the succession and development module. So let's start. First up is the nomination history in People Profile. Viewing the nomination history is already available in talent cards. With the new feature, end users can view the same level of historical tracking in the People Profile as well. One can easily query which nomination was changed, who performed the change, and what was the reason for changing the nomination. Deleted nominations are also included in the nomination history view. Some of our customers prefer using the People Profile instead of the talent cards for managing the nominations. So this is a nice functionality for them. Speaking of nomination history, users with the proper permission can now view the previous and current notes of the nomination history of a position card. With this new feature, users can track all historical notes for nominations in a more transparent way using the succession org chart or the position tile screens. This next one is important to most, if not all, of our succession customers. The talent card is heavily used from almost every succession screen, starting from the succession org chart, calibration, presentation, and more. Using this feature, HRs and managers can now edit talent information sections and custom background element sections directly from the talent card. When clicking on the marked icon, the relevant screen will pop up to allow editing the content. Please note that this doesn't apply for the performance and potential rating sections yet. And if you are using approvals in your nominations process, like some of you do, you now have the option to hide pending nominations in both the talent card and the People Profile. The screenshot presents the relevant section in case the customer decides to show all the talent pool nominations, including the pending ones. You can now control whether you like to present it or not. Moving on to the career development module, and specifically to the Career Explorer. As you recall, the Career Explorer was introduced in H1 2020 as an optional functionality in career planning. And this is how it looked like. You could easily get recommendations from the system in order to plan your career path. Several customers found this automatic recommendation logic a bit confusing. Therefore, SAP added a pop-up screen to view the system's recommendation reasons. After choosing View Recommendation Reasons in the role card, employees can understand why are the job roles recommended for them. This covers the job roles in the first layer of the job lineage chart. The reasons are given based on the employee data, job information, and job history in Employee Central. As the roles in the second and onward layers are recommended using a different approach, no specific reasons are provided at this point. Moving on to mentoring. You can now integrate Qualtrics surveys with mentoring solutions so that you can get a feedback from your employees when an individual chooses to end their mentoring relationship, regardless whether the mentoring program has ended. With this feature, program owners can gather feedback from both mentors and mentees. Employees who are ending the relationship will see a pop-up survey in their mentoring page directly after they have ended the relationship, while the employees for whom the relationship was ended will receive an email survey. And the last one for the succession and development module is the key questions during the mentoring sign-up process. From the coming release, key questions are marked in red with a red asterisk. Participants must answer these questions before they can complete the sign-up or check recommended mentors. If mentors and mentees do not satisfy the matching rule of key questions, mentors will not be recommended to the mentees. These enhancements make sure that participants won't miss these questions, which may improve the matching results. That concludes the succession and development major enhancements for this release. Let's move over to some very exciting and new functionality connecting the SuccessFactors with Qualtrics. First, a quick reminder. In previous AKT webinars, we've touched on the concept of listen, understand, act. Imagine our future of using Qualtrics suggested actions and tasks together with intelligent recommendations. Imagine us collecting and analyzing data in one system and generating intelligent recommendations in other systems. SuccessFactors is in the process of creating a framework for such intelligent recommendations that could be coming from Leonardo, meaning SAP's artificial intelligence, or from Qualtrics, and be seamless to the employees and managers. There are many dependencies and yet so many possibilities. Let's review them together. Let's discuss the enabling layer first. In order to benefit from this rich functionality, we need to integrate the organizational data between the two systems. In this release, SuccessFactors improved the data streamlining to and from Qualtrics. You can now easily integrate your organizational data from SuccessFactors Integration Center to Qualtrics using SFTP. This information will be automatically pulled by Qualtrics, providing a near real-time syncing of employee data in Qualtrics. So based on the streamlined data, we can now automatically initiate opportunities for feedback utilizing rule-based capabilities within Qualtrics. We can now measure employee experiences at every moment that matters across the employee lifecycle. You can easily trigger a feedback opportunity for both employees and candidates in cases such as onboarding process, global assignment termination, going on a long-term disability, or changing a candidate status. On top of the automation process we've just mentioned, this release adds many more lifecycle events using the SuccessFactors intelligent services and APIs. Events like offboarding complete event, employee rehire, first-time manager, short and long-term disability, which I already mentioned, completion of mentoring programs, which I also mentioned, mentoring relationship termination, and the completion of a calibration session. As you all know, we also have embedded surveys, which can be automatically launched based on a specific transaction in order to collect online immediate feedback. In previous releases, these included performance review step completion. So you would get a pop-up message to answer a survey once you've completed answering your performance evaluation form. A job application submission. This is for candidates, and benefits enrollments. In this release, SuccessFactors have added the compensation form completion to the list of embedded surveys. The same functionality can be utilized for those of you using the Ask HR functionality. So again, a survey will be launched when an employee opens a new ticket or after a ticket was closed by the HR agent. In both cases, we are striving to actually feel and get the feedback from the employee on the support we give them using the Ask HR functionality. And for those of you using the learning module, you can now reduce manual work and save time by being able to easily send learning course data to Qualtrics for launching surveys by using the Learning History connector. Using this functionality will enable learning and development leaders to easily automate post-training assessments, drive performance improvements by linking training and employee performance data, and understand training effectiveness and how your courses affect your organization's most important KPIs. Please note that this functionality is available only with the IBSO services and ongoing subscription in Qualtrics. This concludes the Qualtrics and SuccessFactors integration review. Thank you very much for listening. Moving back to Michelle.
Thank you, Danny. And thank you to all the panelists today, Marianne Nelefour and Mihail. And I see that we have a few minutes and we have a few questions. So if our panelists don't mind, I'm going to put them on the spot and ask some of these questions that have come in. The first one for Marianne, please. Can the deep link that you presented in the performance and goals management module, can that deep link be used in reminders asking employees to complete their performance? Marianne, I think you're on mute.
Hopefully you can hear me.
We can hear you now.
Great.
Do you need me to
Perfect.
repeat the question?
No, that's okay. Thank you,
Okay.
Michelle. I have it.
Mm-hmm.
So the deep links can be used anywhere hyperlinked can be used. So meaning you can use it in an offline content, in your internal documentation, on your sites, on a third-party application. But then to answer these questions, it depends on how you provide reminders to your employees. So maybe we can view this a little bit more in details, and you can reach out to us by email so we can see directly if it's feasible or not.
Sure, we'll send you the participants' details to get back to them. The next question is with regards to learning. So Nilufar, if you can unmute yourself, the question is, are custom recommendations an additional license, or are they part of the LMS standard?
So the personalized recommendations are part of the standard, but only for the customers who are part of the early adopter care program. And for that, you have to fill out a questionnaire in SAP platform, and for the SAP SF Learning Recommender EAC registration. And there are a few prerequisites to be part of this program. But other than that, there's no additional license to have for this feature.
Fantastic. And so, as you mentioned, they need to contact and join the SAP Early Adopter Care Program, correct?
Yes.
Fantastic. Okay, great. The second question that came in is for yourself, if you can please stay still unmuted. Do you know if we are going to have LMS story templates in People Analytics?
So for now, there will not be templates, but you can find a list of reports that you can create for learning stories with People Analytics, but no templates yet. It's very new, so there's no materials available so far.
Okay, great. And following on that question with regards to People Analytics, in the previous session, session A, if you weren't a participant in it, our head of People Analytics for the EMEA region, Simon Reynolds, presented the latest updates in the People Analytics features for this half-year release. So we will, for your convenience, make that section of the presentation also available to participants in session B, this session's webinar, following the close of this webinar. And following the close of this webinar, all participants and registrants from today's webinar will receive a recording of today's webinar, as well as the slide deck of this webinar. So be sure to look out for that email following that. Now, I don't see any additional questions that have come in, so we will give you all back 2 minutes of your time, maybe to go get yourself another cup of coffee. So thanks everyone for taking the time today to present, and thanks to those who joined this webinar. If you posted any questions today, we have answered them, but we will also follow up with email responses to you, so that if you have any follow-up questions, we can most certainly develop those questions and queries with you. If you have any additional questions or comments or more information, again, feel free to email us at info@aktglobal.com. And with that, we hope you have a good rest of the day and a great week. Stay healthy, everyone. Goodbye.